Also in Strasbourg this week, we've got a very important vote on the Common Agricultural Policy, and particularly on the greening aspects of the CAP. Now, 3 years ago when the new CAP reform came in, there was a new greening payment that came in. And this greening payment was something that we've been opposed to all along, but it meant that farmers had to keep a certain proportion of their land free for ecological focus areas, they called them. On these areas, farmers were able to grow certain special crops, protein crops, catch crops, these sort of things, not the sort of main crops in a field. And under that reform, farmers were able to use pesticides on those crops. The European Commission has come up with a new proposal that they won't be able to use pesticides on those crops at all. And the European Parliament has objected to those proposals, and hopefully this week we're going to vote to reject that proposal from the Commission. And the reason for that is the idea of greening, which we opposed in the first place because we actually think the single farm payment was a much better approach. But the idea of greening was to try and keep some of the land free from cultivation to allow sort of wildlife and ecological crops and these sorts of things. Not a bad idea if it had been done properly, but it wasn't done properly, and what we've actually ended up is a system where a certain proportion of the land on the farm now can't be properly cultivated. So the fact that even now, even under those rules, you can use some pesticides is a good thing. We don't want to make it even harder for farmers to grow food. Food prices are going up throughout the world. We need more food. The last thing we want to do is make it harder for farmers to grow food in greening areas or in the major areas of their farms. So we're going to be opposing this. We think there needs to be fundamental reform of the CAP, as always. There needs to be simplification of the greening part of the CAP. And for as long as we're in the EU, our farmers are going to be bound by these rules. So we need to make sure they're right and farmers are able to grow whatever they can, as much as they can, because farmers ultimately are the best stewards of their land. They know the land better than any bureaucrat here in Strasbourg.